He talks green and gold.
158, go!
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Well, good evening. We are broadcasting live. We're at Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend, Wisconsin, which is where you can find us. And welcome to all of you on the Bud Light live stream as well, watching this evening, all throughout Parts Unknown. And there's a lot to get to. We got Mike Clemens coming up a little bit. We're going to talk with Grant Bills. We're going to talk with Kevin Holden from CBS 58 coming up a little bit later on in the program. But all the talk over the last 24 hours has been about the comments of Aaron Rodgers as he had some things to say about his team. And Sammy Watkins today spoke out and said, hey, look, Aaron's right. You know, if there's guys that aren't pulling their weight, if there's guys that are making mistakes, not catching footballs, not doing what they're asked to do, being told what they're, if they're losing games, if they're losing plays because guys continually make mistakes, he said he supports the quarterback. I don't think you expected him not to say that, but he came out strong today to say that he did indeed support the quarterback. We're going to hear from Mike Clemens here at the bottom of the hour, who was in Green Bay today as the Packers did practice. Aaron Rodgers did not practice today. When asked specifically, and you're going to hear this because I want to play a lot of his comments today for you, but when asked specifically, hey, Aaron, is your thumb broke? Which, no, it's not broke, obviously. But he just said, no, it's hurt. So he was very emphatic about that. But again, did not practice today as, numerous players did not. Rashawn Gary warmed up, but I think he is still in a concussion protocol. There's some talk about his toe as well. Alan Lazard, they're saying he can miss a game or games. Nothing official as of yet, but nevertheless, it is somewhat concerning as he is what is considered to be your best wideout. There's a lot of talk about trade opportunities for the Green Bay Packers to get into as well. Now the latest name to be thrown around out there is the wide receiver Brandon Cooks from the Houston Texans. He is a guy going back to the years of his combine speed at a 4.33. So even if he's lost a step, he's still a fast dude. And if you get Christian Watson healthy, you would at least have serious speed on this team. Now, the ability to catch the football would be an entirely different thing, but whether or not they'd be able to get on the same page quick enough between him and Christian Watson to be able to become a real downfield threat and or a threat in general, we'd have to wait and see. But it's getting interesting. And I walked in tonight, as a matter of fact, out here at Kelly's Bleachers, and again we're here in Big Bend, right off of 164 and the Rock Freeway 43, going south. So if you want to stop in, you can. They have terrific food here too, and tons of televisions and screens. And the Bucs game is going to be on tonight. They're going to have that up, so a lot of talk about the Bucs and the Brooklyn Nets tonight, so you can catch that game if you come out. But Aaron Rodgers did speak today, and I want to take this moment before we get into the rest of the program. I want you to take a listen to what he had to say 24 hours after he stated there needs to be some guys that are held accountable. Take a listen.
Go. And TJ Lang had a comment after what you said about guys who are making too many mistakes shouldn't play. He said he doesn't think that'll help young players gain any confidence. You obviously have an intention with everything you say. What was the thinking behind phrasing it like that? And what are your thoughts on his response
to that? Should be accountability. There's accountability for all of us. So, you're making the right plays, you're in the right spot at the right time, you're going to get opportunities. If you're not, there's consequences. I think we can all agree on that.
You said maybe some guys who aren't playing should get a chance. Like, who's left?
I saw Bad Moon Rising here. So I don't know if he can play or not. But, no, there should be accountability with our guys. There's accountability. Sammy was on a pitch count, obviously, last week, so we couldn't get more plays out of him. But, we'd like to get Sammy back, though. Hopefully Christian can play this week. But they're just – when you're struggling on offense, you got to look at everything in the details. There's just there's been too many, what seem like simple mental errors. And, I'm not a robot up here. So I think people in this society have a hard time hearing the truth sometimes. So I'm going to hold guys accountable. Matt's going to hold guys accountable. Vrabel's going to hold guys accountable. JD's going to hold guys accountable. Ben's going to hold guys accountable. Steno and Bucket's going to hold guys accountable. And we need guys to focus in on the mental part of this.
Do you have guys in mind that have impressed you that you do feel like should get more playing
Not necessarily. I think it's just, we got to get our best 11 on the field. And if that means going different personnel groups, then we'll have to do that. But we can't have the same, double digit 15 plus mental errors and expect to move the ball efficiently.
What does it take to fix those mental errors?
Time. We have a schedule. We're creatures of habit, but when we leave this place, we got to be making sure we're doing the right thing when we're home. Some of that's watching film, some of that's studying the plans, some of that's studying ourselves. But we got to make sure we're ready to go every single day we step in the building.
Practice Wednesday through Friday. The walkthrough on Saturday. You get into a game, you got 5 or 6 of these critical mistakes where you could have scored. Can you see this during the week where some of these things are missing? Or, when the coaches are trying to get this stuff corrected?
Well, we're always correcting stuff. We meet with the receivers. We're going over certain things. We're detailing up the plan. But it comes down to being able to execute in the moment. And I think that's some of the growing pains with young players. But we all should be able to handle criticism. That's the nature of our job. Everything that we do is scrutinized, from myself on down to the young players. And getting used to dealing with that in a positive way is important, whether it's coming from one of you people or from me or from Matt. We need to be able to be coachable, all of us.
Once upon a time, Aaron, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, used to meet with your Michael like on Saturdays or something like that. Is that something that you need to do to maybe help, or maybe you already are, I don't know. Is that a possibility of maybe grabbing 1 or 2 guys and pulling along on Saturdays?
Like Kevin Garnett said, anything's possible. Whatever it takes to win. If that's necessary, then we'll step up some of those meetings as well. Hold on, Jason asked a question. I'm contemplating my answer right now. Most of the time, J-Mike came to those. And it was usually in my room, so I didn't have to go far. But, those can be important. That was always to get on the same page with him about certain plays that I knew the ball was probably going to come to him. We detail the heck out of this plan each week, and it's that taking it to the field that's going to allow us to be a little more efficient, I think.
So speaking of him, there's some people in this group that when he and Greg would criticize your leadership, we would go to the Lucas Patricks and the guys who would stand up for you and talk to them. Do you think being public about your criticism about those guys yesterday with Pat, is that good leadership? And if it is, can you explain to me why that's good when you could have done the same types of things privately?
I do it privately. I'm not saying anything on Pat that I'm not saying to those guys. So, maybe that's talking about a conversation that's behind closed doors in public. But, the level of accountability is the standard here. And, again, I don't think it should be a problem to any of those guys to hear criticism. We all hear criticism in our own ways. And we all got to, be okay with it. And take it in, process it, and if it doesn't fit, then it doesn't fit. But if it fits, we gotta wear it and improve on those certain things. And again, I said it. I'm not going to be a robot up here. I don't understand why people have a problem with things that are truthful. I'm calling things the way I see it. People don't think I need to air that stuff out. That's their opinion, but I'm doing what I think is the best interest of our guys. And I've tried a lot of different things from a leadership standpoint this year. And, I was just relating my personal feelings on the situation. I didn't call anybody out by name. I think we all need to be on the details. And that includes me. If I need to have, one-on-one extra conversations with those guys during the week, then I'm going to do that. And we have done that to an extent. But, I'm not just putting, 1 or 2 guys on blast. I'm alerting everybody that this hasn't been good enough and we all got to do a little better job. If one of those guys has a problem with it, I'm right here. I'd love to have a conversation. I enjoy those conversations. I enjoy any type of conflict like that because I know the resolution on the other side is going to make us, a better unit, a better friendship, a better cohesion on the field. But nobody's come to me and said, I got a problem with what you said. I think everybody knows, Matt included, everything's got to take a little uptick, get a little better.
Aaron, you've played a lot of football. You haven't had many stretches like this where 2 losses in a row have become 3. With the personal feeling you have towards the offense and the struggles you're having now, how do those compare to, say, 2015, there were 3 in a row, 08, I think there were a few in a row. How does this feel and compare to those that you've gone through?
I mean, every team is different. Every season feels a little different. We got different personnel. This is an interesting stretch for us now with, 3 games on the road and obviously a tough opponent on Sunday Night Football. But we've been pretty good in prime time the last, 13 games or so. So we expect the same type of performance this week. Hopefully it's a bounce back for us. Hopefully we can go there and embrace the underdog role and come out of there with a win.
We talked to you since minicamp about how much this offense might miss Devontae. We talked to you a couple of weeks ago about the deep shots, and that's something that Devontae got really good at with you over the years, especially the past couple of years. Is that maybe one of the areas that you guys miss the most, is being able to take the top off?
I think his speed was always one of the least talked about things, but he was always able to get on top of guys or be ready for a back shoulder down the field. We haven't, been able to protect it up maybe as well at times. We really leaned on chipping and thumping with our guys and some more quick passing game with Zach in there after Dave was down. So it just depends. It's week to week. We have a lot of deep shots in the game. It just, requires the right timing to get them off the call sheet and then the execution, which hasn't been there.
I'm curious through your perspective, is there a standard when it comes to throwing the ball downfield that you want to be able to hit this many of them? I guess what I mean is Steph Curry's greatest shooter of all time. This is more than half his 3-pointers. Aaron Judge had a start season. 70% of those at-bats were outs. I mean, is there a realistic standard that if we're hitting this is successful?
I don't know. I mean, we used to talk about getting 1 a quarter. We just haven't had a lot of those opportunities, to be honest. So if we're getting them, we need to hit them right now because the margin of error is pretty slim. So just about roll them off the call sheet when it looks right, when we feel like we can block it up, and then everybody doing their job, and then me making the right throw. We'd love to hit probably 50% of those if we can.
We're not those critical conversations with teammates that you're talking about before. What kind of feedback do you get from it? Is it what you're seeking from them when you have those conversations?
Yeah, for the most part, I enjoy listening. I start a conversation and listen. I want to hear how they process things. I want to hear what's going through their mind, so that I can better relate to them in those situations. It's not me talking, down to someone or leading the conversation. It's opening up a conversation and then having an actual conversation where it's back and forth. And I want to hear their thoughts. I want to hear what they're thinking as they're running routes. And that's why it's always important when we get together as a group, a perimeter group, just get those guys communicating. Just talk to me about your route, what you're thinking in the process, what you thought pre-snap, what you're thinking at the snap, what you think at the top of your stem. We just need to have a little, a few more of those conversations. And we do that once a week, but, might need to step that up a little bit. Well, we did have a meeting today with those guys. We usually meet on Thursday. Today's Wednesday, so we kind of went through the film. I was actually down at practice today for all the team periods, so I thought that was important. Just as much as I need to do some treatment on my thumb, that was more important to be down there with the guys so they could hear my voice. I was calling the plays in and then coaching guys up during the defensive time. Well, it's still a work in progress. I think we've been hurt. A lot of guys injured throughout the season who we expected to play big roles for us. Obviously, Cobby going on IR, and Sammy's been on IR, and Dave has been, up and down for us. We just need to get all of our guys healthy, and in the meantime, find a way to be more efficient with the guys we got.
Aaron, how much do you relish an underdog role? It's rare, but I remember in 2012 you went to Houston. You said last year you went to Arizona with a lot of guys down. You got to win against another undefeated team. How much do you relish this?
Yeah, I love it. It's kind of rare, which means we've won a lot of games around here. But to be a double-digit underdog is a different spot for us, and I hope we embrace that role because it's probably not going to be like this for a while.
So there you go. A lot of that is Aaron Rodgers. And, interesting because he said he takes accountability for those that said he doesn't. He did take accountability. He did state that he is already spoken to everybody behind closed doors. And he said, and this is what I had said at the time. I had said, look, if he didn't say those things behind closed doors to other guys in that locker room, I'd have an issue with it. But he didn't, and as he stated, he said, I'm not calling anybody out by name. You know, people in here that know that they have mistakes, they know what they got to do. I'm not saying anything out of school. I'm not, saying anything to Pat or to you guys in the media that I haven't said behind closed doors here. There's total transparency. That I can appreciate. So now it's about, practice and getting back to it and the accountability of not making those mistakes and trying to be a better football team. And I want to talk about that when we come back. We got Mike Clemens coming up at the bottom of the hour, and a lot of people chiming in. It's a pretty heavily watched show this evening on many different channels. So I want to address some of the stuff that's being said. For those of you watching on the Bud Light live stream, thanks for paying attention to us tonight. And for those of you listening all throughout the great state of Wisconsin and beyond the borders, thanks for taking a listen to us. We certainly appreciate it. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. And we got Bud Light on hand here tonight, giving a bunch of stuff away. We got T-shirts and hats and koozies and all kinds of different things to give away here this evening. They have Bud Light specials. So if you want to come by and say hello, feel free. We're broadcasting live at Kelly's Bleachers here in Big Bend. Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend, right off of 43, 164. Come on by and say hi. They got some pool going on. They got the Bucks game getting ready to start here in just a little bit. TVs everywhere. There's not a place in this place that you can't sit down and watch something on the tube, whether it's golf or whether it's basketball, football, baseball, whatever it happens to be. World Series doesn't start till later this week. But nevertheless, if you want to come by and say hi, please feel free to go ahead and do so. Stay tuned. We got a lot more. The Bill Michaels Huddle coming up next.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program, the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are live tonight. We're at Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend. That's where you can find us. We certainly appreciate you hanging out with us this evening. And thanks for those of you watching over on the Bud Light live stream as well. And we've got quite a few viewers there. So we got Mike Clemens coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Aaron Rodgers' comments I wanted to address because he did speak to the media today. If you heard that in the last segment of the program as we kick things off, because what he had said on the Pat McAfee show about, guys need to lose reps. It's about accountability, and he goes on, and he was criticized by some, applauded by others. He did say that he has spoken to many people behind closed doors. He talked to Steno. He talked to Matt. He went through the whole list of guys behind that locker room, including other players. And so he said what he said behind closed doors first. He also was very adamant. He said, look, I didn't call anybody out by name. So people are getting mad about things, and I understand it because this is a very divided fan base when it comes to things that Aaron Rodgers says. And the one thing he said is, hey, I'm not a robot. Some people don't like the truth. And that's true. That's true. Some people don't like the truth. Some people would prefer that you just don't go there. And especially some Packers fans, they don't want to hear it. You get some fans that everything sucks and everybody needs to be held accountable and people need to get fired. Other people don't want to hear it from anybody. Everything's fine. They'll work it out. Rah, rah, green and gold glasses. So there's two sides to this here, and you kind of walk a fine line. But the honest truth is this. As long as he said it behind closed doors and is open, like he said, to talking to guys about it, even if they get into an argument about it, he says, because what comes out the other side is positive. He doesn't feel like he's putting himself on a pedestal or anything like that. I tend to agree, and I've been pretty hard on Aaron Rodgers, but I tend to agree with him here. I know others don't. That's fine. But I kind of tend to agree with him here. It's like, look, I'm not calling out the coaching staff. I'm not calling out specific players. I'm just simply saying we as players inside this locker room need to hold each other accountable. And he says, I do myself. He talked about missing throws, and he talked about, things that he could have done better. He did point out, mental mistakes and mental errors, and he went through that whole spiel again. But if he's saying that same thing behind closed doors to people and being there, like he said, he felt it was important for him to be calling the plays today. So even though he didn't practice, he was still there. It wasn't like he was off, doing other things. He was still there at practice. He just didn't want to work the thumb out. He's trying to get the thumb to heal. So that's why he said, look, hey, I just, I felt it was important for me to be there and have my voice heard. And so that's what he did. Those are the kinds of things we don't see a lot of behind closed doors. And so there's no reason to feel that he's not telling the truth. As long as he's telling the truth, I mean, I don't have a massive problem with it. Some of you over on the Bud Light live stream, you can hit us up. You can also give us a call before we get to the bottom of the hour. So RJ says maybe he should lose reps since he isn't doing his job very well. RJ is not playing at an MVP level. I agree with that. But when it comes to overall grades, he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the National Football League. If you look at the number of dropbacks, the number of block passes, the number of drop passes, the reads that he's supposed to have, balls that have been thrown away, balls that have been thrown out of harm's way. Overall, if you think that Jordan Love is going to be better, or if you think that that's setting some kind of a standard, I guess, okay. Watcher says there's plenty of blame to go everywhere. Drops, penalties, injuries, bad play calling, etc. And I agree with. Javier says this team should have gotten in return for Devontae Adams 2 number ones and Darren Waller and a tight end that still could have drafted Christian Watson And you weren't going to get 2 number ones. I mean, you can say that, but you weren't going to get it. Just an FYI. I mean, I don't, you can say that, I guess, but, it is what it is. This one's from Watcher, who also says you need a number 1 wide receiver right now. There's a lot of talk about different trade opportunities for the Packers. I put it this way, too, that if they are indeed looking for wide receivers and trying to make a deal, okay, that means Goody is being now, whether he pulls the trigger on a deal, we'll wait and see. I don't think at this point there's anything that's too much. You may think it's too much at the trade deadline to spend draft capital for one particular player, and fans are going to say, well, you got hosed. But if the guy actually becomes a contributing member as opposed to, say, another third-round draft choice who's considered to be a complete bust, I'll take that every damn day of the week. I'm sorry. I don't care about draft choices. That's the way you build the lifeblood of your team. I understand it. But right now you need proven players. And that was the one area you couldn't afford to go unproven in, and that's what they did. And Sammy Watkins, he's a Band-Aid at best. Randy says, does Goody realize that they need immediate help and imponderable the offensive line and wide receiver, or is going to pull a Stearns, Brewers, Packers, and never go for it? I don't know about never. Now, it's completely different because he's not working with a budget. He's working with a salary cap. They got about $7.5 million to spend, but you also have to remember that if another player or two goes down with an injury, then you're not going to have a ton of money. You can't just go out and start getting guys. You got to work within the salary cap. They would have to start automatically restructuring and such, and you'd have to do it right now because you don't have much time left. Just doesn't have much time left. 877-867-1670. RJ says, I like to see them make a trade for Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler from Denver in one big package. At least one wide receiver, right? At least one. You need somebody to help. Now, if the Cooks thing came true, and he's been a 1,000-yard receiver pretty consistently throughout his career. It doesn't matter the quarterback that's been thrown to him. And sure, he plays for the Texans, and sure, he's doing it and trying to, they're playing catch up, and they're not a great offense, but it's still a guy that's been a go-to guy, right? I mean, I anybody that can catch the football and run with it at this point, and you maybe you think he only gets better with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football. You ever think of that? It's like nobody's going to be happy, and you're going to knock everything that they do. And it hasn't even been done yet. And if you don't like somebody, who do you want instead that's absolutely positively going to fit this system and fit what they have going on? And then if they do it and it doesn't work out right, what are you going to blame after that? It's like right now, a lot of people just aren't happy about anything. 877-867-1670. When we come back, Mike Clemens is going to join us. We're going to talk with him. He was up there in Green Bay today, and he was asking a few of the questions to both Aaron Rodgers and to Matt LaFleur today, and Mike had some interesting takes and some interesting thoughts on some of these responses. So we're going to get Mike Clemens going to be joining us. He is coming up next. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are broadcasting live, Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend. If you want to stop by and say hi, and we are brought to you by our good friends over there at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Hang in there. We got more right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Guys who are making too many mistakes shouldn't be playing. You gotta start cutting some reps, and maybe guys who aren't playing, give them a chance.
Welcome back to the program. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are brought to you by our good friends over there at Bud Light. They're the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network, giving away a lot of Bud Light stuff tonight. So if people in the house can come up and grab a few items and take some Bud Light stuff home with you this evening, from koozies, shirts, hats, all that kind of good stuff. So if you want to swing by and stop into Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend here, you can. Come on by and pick yourself up some decent tchotchkes to take home. In the meantime, we got our buddy Mike Clemens on the line. And Mike, an interesting day, because I thought it was very poignant listening to Aaron Rodgers, who said all of the things that he said to Pat McAfee, he has said behind closed doors. He talked to Steno. He goes through the whole list and the coaches and players and said, if anybody wants to talk, I'm ready for it. Let's talk about it. But he certainly seems to be trying to take some type of a leadership role to say we have to be accountable.
But for those of us that have been here 18 years through the entire Aaron Rodgers career, we kind of confabbed after this, and we can't think of a time that he's ever said those words. And I guess I understand why now some of the people on the national scale in sports journalism are saying, whoa, he said what? Wait a minute, why? It's not like you're playing great football right now to begin with, buddy. And so for you to be calling out and, this team and the whole Devontae situation and you not coming back last year and then, all the changes that you've made, look in the mirror, that he's going to get that kind of criticism. But no, you're right. That's what he said. I thought it was interesting. One of the first questions he got asked was from Rob from ESPN, who said, "Okay, so if you're on McAfee's show and you're saying maybe some other guys should get a chance, it's like, well, who are you talking about?
Yeah.
There's nobody else left on the roster, man. There's a couple of guys on the practice squad." And he said, "Well, I don't know if that's what I necessarily meant by." He says, "I'm just suggesting maybe there's some other personnel groups." Listen, we know that 4 weeks ago they were asking about Amari Rodgers, who's third round pick, supposed to be the next Randall Cobb. And what was his answer when he said, "Yeah, I don't know anything about him. He's our punt return. That's all I got."
Right.
Remember that?
Yep.
That's like the biggest diss of all time. And on top of that, you've had Amari, with these muffed punt returns. And then when you start having, you lose Lazard, and you're now running shorthanded in the Washington game the other day, and Amari actually has a nice catch on a short ball, but it's a 50-50 ball that he drops, which could have been. I mean, they schemed him wide open, and he drops the pass, and that's got to be one of the guys he's talking about that he's frustrated with. He hasn't made the, he hasn't. Remember, he's in the summertime. He talked about Juwan Winfrey a lot.
Yeah.
But they brought in Winfrey, and he's had his fair share of drops. So, I don't know exactly where he's going with this. But like you say, I pulled this clip in case folks missed it. It's like, all right, you went on McAfee and you said maybe some of these guys should have less reps. Maybe we need to make, maybe other guys need a chance. You're calling these people out. Is this what you're saying privately in meetings? Don't you, as a leader, don't you think you should be solving these problems behind the closed doors of the locker room?
I do it privately. I'm not saying anything on Pat that I'm not saying to those guys. Maybe that's, talking about a conversation that's behind closed doors in public, but the level of accountability is the standard here. And again, I don't think it should be a problem to any of those guys to hear criticism. We all hear criticism in our own ways, and we all got to be okay with it and take it in, process it. And if it doesn't fit, then it doesn't fit. But if it fits, we got to wear it and improve on those certain things. Again, I said it, I'm not going to be a robot up here. I don't understand why people have a problem with things that are truthful. I'm calling things the way I see it. People don't think I need to air that stuff out. That's their opinion. But I'm doing what I think is the best interest of our guys. And I've tried a lot of different things from a leadership standpoint this year. I was just relating my personal feelings on the situation. I didn't call anybody out by name. I think we all need to be on the details. And that includes me. If I need to have one-on-one extra conversations with those guys during the week, then I'm going to do that. And we have done that to an extent. But, I'm not just putting one or two guys on blast. I'm alerting everybody that this hasn't been good enough and we all got to do a little better job. If one of those guys has a problem with it, I'm right here. I'd love to have a conversation. I enjoy those conversations. I enjoy any type of conflict like that because I know the resolution on the other side is going to make us, a better unit, a better friendship, a better cohesion on the field. But nobody's come to me and said, I got a problem with what you said. I think everybody knows, Matt included, that everything's got to take a little uptick, get a little better.
Mike, I'm listening to some former players today that are saying you don't do this. You don't go outside. You don't tell people that need to lose reps. And he didn't mention anybody by name. But as the guys stated, they said, hey, look, people inside the locker room know who you're talking about. And if suddenly guys start losing reps, well, then it looks like Rodgers has got more power or he's separated himself. He's put himself on a pedal. Whatever. It didn't sit well with former players. It sounded like a Sammy Watkins backed him up and said, hey, I agree with him. If guys aren't getting it done, then, yeah, I mean, we need to call each other out. We need to be accountable in that sense. It didn't sound like some guys in that locker room had a problem. Not that I expected them to rip Aaron Rodgers, but they did it very passionately, which would tell you they don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. I want to explain this too. Rodgers comes off like a snarky brat, when you're hearing these talks. I'm telling you, I stood a foot away from him today, and he is at peace. He's not angry. He's obviously frustrated. He's the perfectionist. He feels he's a great player. He says he's a great player. He knows he's made some mistakes. He also knows that he's playing with an injured thumb. But basically, it's like, what do I got to do here? What, these are simple plays or assignments we've got with these guys. We just spent the whole week, going over this. The coaches have given you other scenarios. So if this happens, then you have to change to that. And these guys are just making these boneheaded decisions that are costing them 6 or 7 plays a game, which could make the difference in terms of chunk plays or touchdown plays. So I just want everybody to know that's just the way it comes off. But when you're standing there a foot away from him and talking about it, what he is saying is very reasonable, but he's going to do it his way. Yeah, I mean, he feels like he deserves it. It's his team. He's a great quarterback, and he needs guys to work a little bit harder and get on schedule now. Now, in terms of their confidence, or if they're intimidated by this, or they feel embarrassed about it, well, I guess he's going to leave that to the coaches or the other players to determine. By the way, while I'm thinking about it, I asked him about the thumb injury. How's that coming along? He said, it's a little better, but he's probably going to have it taped up at the start of the game as opposed to halftime like he did in Washington. He said he thought, probably by the bye it should be okay. Well, I'm like, wait a minute. So they play the Bills this Sunday night. The following week we go to Detroit to play the Lions, and then they'll be at home against McCarthy and the Packers at Lambeau Field. After that, there's a break before they host the Titans. So that means that, he thinks that this thumb won't be 100% for another 3 more games, which I find pretty interesting. But you made the point, guys like TJ Lang, a former guard, a really down-to-earth guy that, you've had him on the show. Mm-hmm. He called out Aaron and just said, okay, I heard those comments. I know how Aaron operates, but boy, he didn't do anything by helping the confidence of, say, a Romeo Dobbs by making these public comments like, yeah, these guys are screwing up, man, and I don't know how much longer I can put up with this.
Right. Yeah, it's a slippery slope because he's, like he said, I'm giving you the truth. I mean, he's not making it up. He's not being harsh. He's just giving you the truth. And like I said, former players took it as shut up. That's inside house stuff. We in the media, we looked at it as, yeah, he's speaking the truth. And some fans are like, yeah, it's about time somebody spoke up and said somebody's ass because they need to be held accountable. That's the way fans feel. So it just depends on the perspective, I guess, that you're looking at. But what you worry about, I think, the most, if you really understand it, is the guys inside the locker room and how they're going to respond to all of this. And now, it's kind of the paralysis by analysis. Are you paying so much attention to the detail that you're not just playing football and you're playing it free and you're playing it fun and you're going with your own tenacity and your own ability and instinct and athleticism? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So they lose the game in Washington. Frustrating plays. The flight home. He gets up on Monday. He gets treatments. He watches the tape of the game. He confirms some of the mistakes that he saw. He's at home relaxing and recuperating on Tuesday. He does a half hour on the McAfee show with his friend A.J. Hawk, and he just lays this stuff out. Today, he skips practice and goes in for more treatments on the thumb. So Jordan Love gets all those snaps. And then the practice ran late, and then they have a meeting. And he told us when he came out, he was 45 minutes late to his locker today. And when he finally showed up, he said, we had a meeting that we normally have on Thursdays, we had today. So that signals like, okay, an urgency that we need to make these corrections now, and as we move on for the game plan prep for Sunday night in Buffalo, and then he talked to us. Took to us 20 minutes of questions until they were practically shutting down the locker room, and he still hung around. And we talked a little bit, after the cameras were turned off, but. His attitude, his position did not change. So, I mean, that's in his favor, his integrity. But, how'd you like to be Matt LaFleur today? I mean, what do you do? And you know what? It's LaFleur has to ride this line of what Goody and Mark want him to do, Yeah, exactly. He has to walk the line on what that operation wants and where they think the franchise is going with or without Rodgers. At the same time, he's got to keep Rodgers happy, and at the same time, he's just got to try and coach these guys to make sure he makes corrections in their techniques, in their routes, in their blocking assignments, and everything, and not lose the locker, not lose the locker room. Yeah, or have some of these position coaches. You know, they don't want to lose these guys. They don't want some of these guys to shut down on them because these position coaches will start losing their jobs at the end of the year. So it's not at crisis level, but right now I don't know how the hell they will pull a rabbit out of their hat and beat the Buffalo Bills, who are coming off a win over the Chiefs, a bye week, and Von Miller, you know, now joining this team. I mean, they're humming along. They're a fine-tuned machine right now. And that's going to be a real interesting game when they kick off Sunday night in Buffalo.
Real quick, Mike, in like 30 seconds, if they win this game, it's huge. If they play really, really well but still lose, it's okay. You feel like it's a win. But if they get blown out, then I would almost say that's the beginning of the end of this season.
Bill, I had a person high up, I would say, in the Packers organization that said, if they lose this game tomorrow, the wheels are coming off. That was the Jets game.
Right.
That was the Jets game.
Yeah.
That's what they think about upstairs. Oh man, if we lose to the Jets tomorrow, the wheels are coming off.
Yep.
That was 2 losses ago.
Yep.
So that gives you that's what they think about upstairs right now, Bill.
Yep, no doubt. Mike, great stuff, man. I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you, Billy.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon. There you go. Mike Clemens joining us at Lambeau. Let's do this. We're going to step out, take a quick break, come back. Don't forget, top of the hour, Grant Bills is going to join us, part of the Wisco Sports Show. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We got more right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
My thumb is hurt.
That's it. There you go. Welcome back. That is Aaron Rodgers answering a question. So what he said, did you break your thumb, Aaron? He said, my thumb is hurt. That's it. No, didn't break it. So Aaron Rodgers speaking to the media today. I guess some people just got to know, my assumption is if the thumb was broke, first of all, you would have heard about it. There'd probably be some kind of a surgery. Secondly, he wouldn't be going out without any tape and or protection on it. So he just looked at whomever asked the question and said, my thumb is hurt. So that's it. Good stuff. I'll tell you this, it makes for incredible speculation and discussion. And as Mike Clemens said, and Mike brought something up, and I thought it was pertinent when he said he talked to somebody high up with the Green Bay Packers, somebody in the front, with the organization, we'll say, and said that, they said the wheels are going to come off if they lose this game. That was to the Jets. I don't know if Mike talked to the same person, but I had a similar conversation. And I said, hey, you always ask, what's the feeling? What's the mood? What's the take? That type of thing. And it was walking into the press box at the Jets game and said that this is like a tipping point. The Jets game was. They got someone embarrassed in London and the Jets coming into Lambeau. I said, hey, look, this Jets defense, they're for real, man. They're going to get after it. Big time. So, what was said to me, it was a very brief conversation, but I just said, so, what happens here? And it was said to me that, kind of that, well, like Mike said, this is the tipping point. And that was the Jets game, of which they lost and got basically out physicaled. And now you got a Washington game and Taylor Heineke, who beat you, and a defensive front who beat you. And at this point in time, I got to be honest, this is offense. We can say what you want about the defense and about giving up points in the second half of ball games. And that's kind of like, look over here, look over here, look over here. Don't pay attention to the actual magician. Look over here at my hand where the magic's happening, and over here he's hiding the keys. That's kind of what's going on. Don't pay attention to Joe Barry. Don't pay attention to the defense, because the real problem right now is when you talk about scoring offenses in the National Football League, Packers, they're one of the worst when you just talk about simply scoring right now. So it's as much as we want to talk about, all the other stuff, and yards, per attempt and per game, and, but man, just overall scoring, the Packers aren't the worst, don't get me wrong, but they're certainly not near the top. When you think about all the teams that are ahead of them, the Giants, the Dolphins, the Raiders, the Raiders, Cardinals, Vikings, 49ers, Jets, Patriots, Chargers, Lions, Jaguars, Falcons, Browns, Bengals, Ravens, Seahawks, Saints, Eagles, Bills, and Chiefs are all better than the Green Bay Packers. Washington Commanders tied with them. Then behind them, you got the Titans, the Bears, the Cowboys, Panthers, Rams, Colts, Buccaneers, Steelers, Texans, and the worst scoring team in the league is the Denver Broncos, which is why Nathaniel Hackett's on the hot seat. So you can talk what you want about the defense, but the offense is the problem. The defense is on the field, too. The defense was on the field an entire quarter more than the offense was. An entire quarter more than the defense of the Washington Commanders was. That's how bad things are in Green Bay right now. I mean, I think if the offense gets rolling and you have confidence, you play a little looser on the defense, you can play a little more aggressive, because hey, if you make a mistake, somebody gets behind you, you take one for the team. Well, the offense has got you back. It's always been like that. That's okay. They're going to go out and score. They got your back. This offense doesn't have that. The way this defense has played better is always with a 2-touchdown lead. The way this offense has played better is always with a 2-touchdown lead. If they don't get a big lead, hey, that's the issue. Last year was all special teams all the time, and the defense was doing okay and the offense was doing okay. We were talking about the concentration of Devontae. Now it's all offense all the time. That's the problem. Grant Bills of the Wisco Sports Show going to join us coming up after the top of the hour. Don't forget Kevin Holden, CBS 58, in about 20 minutes. Going to make our picks for the rest of the NFL beginning for tomorrow night. Coming up here at the bottom of the next hour as well. We're not done. 1 hour down, 1 hour yet to go. We're at Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend, right off of 43 and 164. Come on by. We've got some nice Bud Light tchotchkes to give out. Hats, Buck shirts as well. Hats, shirts, koozies, you name it. We got it. Come on by and say hi. We got a lot more. The Bill Michaels Huddle brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. It's coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers were without quarterback Aaron Rodgers and leading receiver Allen Lazard when they hit the practice field for the first time this week earlier today. Rodgers dealing with a thumb injury that has bothered him the last few weeks. Lazard has a shoulder injury. Randall Cobb already on injury reserve. Two other receivers, Sammy Watkins and Christian Watson, limited in practice today. None of that is good news for a pass attack and an offense that struggled this year, but Coach Matt LaFleur won't let anyone use that as a reason for their issues.
To me, that's nothing more than an excuse. You got to find a way. We got to do a better job of putting our guys in position, guys that know what they're doing, and if that's changing personnel grouping, whatever it may be, we've got to do a better job collectively.
Packers getting ready for a trip to face a very good Buffalo squad. They're double-digit underdogs for the first time with Rodgers as their quarterback. Kick on Sunday is set for 7:20. Turning to the Badgers, they're getting the week off as they hit their bye week. They'll return next week to face Maryland. Meanwhile, 2023 schedule released today includes home games against Ohio State, Iowa, Nebraska, and Northwestern.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucs are back in action tonight in an early season marquee matchup against Brooklyn at Fiserv Forum. The two teams considered among the favorites to win the Eastern Conference. Bucs come in 2-0. Nets are 1-2. And the Wisconsin basketball team was on the practice floor earlier today. They're going to take on UW-Eau Claire in exhibition action on Sunday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 begins. We are broadcasting live. We're here at Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend. That's where you can track us down. Good to have you on board this evening. And we are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Have some giveaways this evening. So if you want to come by and grab yourself a couple of tchotchkes, you can. Compliments of our friends at Bud Light, for sure. So a couple of things. I'm going through the numbers here. By the way, the Packers right now, 23rd overall in the National Football League in points per game. They are 19th offensively in yards per game. So as much as we want to talk about the defense and Joe Barry and everybody wants to get up in arms about, late quarter heroics from other teams, and I understand it. I don't say that they are not to blame, but it begins and ends with this offense. Joining us now on the hotline from the Wisco Sports Show at Wisco Grant over on Twitter. It's Grant Bills. Grant, how you doing tonight?
Dude, Bill, I'm doing good. I'm watching the Bucks play the Nets right now, and life is good. Other than the Packers, I'm just amped to be watching the Bucks and Giannis playing against Kevin Durant. But life is good other than the Packers, totally.
It is on here on every screen in the bar tonight. There's got to be about 20 screens here, so it's on all over the place. So I'm kind of paying attention to it with one eye as well. With what Aaron Rodgers had to say about, hey, he's already talked to everybody behind closed doors. If anybody's got a problem with it, he'd love to discuss it. He feels that even good heated discussions are of value. He feels like it gets towards the common goal. Give me your thoughts that Aaron Rodgers spoke today and basically doubled down on what he stated yesterday on the Pat McAfee show.
I thought it was funny, and I said this on my show tonight, when I saw those quotes from McAfee, because I go on air at 4. So normally I watch McAfee, and if something crazy happens, I save the audio and we do it just a couple hours later on my show. And I heard that clip where he said, we need to cut some reps of guys. And I thought, classic Rodgers. And I didn't really think too much of it. We brought it up last night. But it was interesting, Bill, to see the reaction of the national sports media, right? Because a lot of football people that I respect and follow on Twitter, they're like, oh, my God, this is terrible. Holy cow, this is blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, this is every other day for us. Like, you guys just don't know how it is. Like, there's always a Rodgers quote. There's always something going on. He's not wrong. Maybe he didn't need to say it, but he's not wrong. And it seems like Matt LaFleur agrees. And it seemed like what I heard from Sammy Watkins today, he's like, I agree. If I'm not making plays out there, I shouldn't be out there. So as long as the team is all in agreement and those lines of communication are good, which is the lines of communication that we don't hear here, but I'm fine with it. I don't think it's the end of the world. It's what Rodgers has been doing his entire career. It's really nothing new. That's surprising.
I found it interesting that most of the national media was kind of split. Some of them say don't talk about it. Others applaud him for taking a leadership role and taking a stance. But what I found interesting was many former players that are now analysts of some type said, you don't do that. You don't, because the guys behind closed doors know who they are. Now it's been put out there for guys that are consistently missing assignments, dropping balls, he put himself into the mix. He said, I'm not hitting every pass. We all have to be accountable. So I appreciate that. But it's kind of like, no, that's the kind of stuff you leave behind closed doors. I found it how we as fans loved it. It's about accountability. Media was split. Former players didn't like it, said, nope, you keep that behind closed doors. Is that kind of how you saw it?
I don't need accountability from him. I don't need him to come out and say that he's playing not his best football. He knows that. We know that. I don't think it fixes it or makes it better when he comes to the podium and says, I got to be better. I don't know. Just fewer words to the public, the better. Wouldn't you agree, Bill? Like, I know he does McAfee, and that's a half hour of stuff, but I think the smartest quarterbacks and the smartest leaders are the ones that know when not to say anything, right? When to keep their mouth shut and to just leave well enough alone. As far as former players go, like, yeah, I get it. There's probably a specific code and a way you do things. But again, I say, you guys don't know Aaron Rodgers. Like, Aaron Rodgers is a complicated fella, to use Mark Murphy's words. Like, this guy's just a little different. He does things differently. So if we're judging Aaron Rodgers on every other athlete in the world, sure, but he is not every other athlete. So this is pretty run-of-the-mill for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
So this game coming up on Sunday, and you tell me what you think of what I'm going to say. I said, if they win this game, the train is on the tracks. We have legitimate hope. We should be excited. If they lose this game,
sure,
say it's 27-24, Buffalo wins on a last, couple-minute field goal, and the Packers just fall short but a hard-fought game, you got a lot of hope. But if they get their doors blown off in this thing, say 27-3, 35-10, 42-10, then I think that's the final nail in the coffin, and this season's pretty much done. Do you?
Well, and you mentioned 3 or 4 different outcomes there, Bill, and almost all of them are bad, right? Obviously, if the Packers win, of course. I mean, this team gets a shot in the arm. That probably includes Romeo Doubs having a great game, or maybe Zach Tom. So if the Packers go out and win, that's going to require good performances from some of these young guys. That's going to do wonders for them and their confidence. So, yes, obviously a win would be huge. The thing is, if the Packers lose, like you said, 28-24, and it's a last-second game and you play the Bills really tough, which is what I think is going to happen, that's great. That's a step in the right direction. That shows that you can go to Buffalo and play well. But at the end of the day, Bill, they're going to be 3-5 when that happens. You know what I mean? Ideally, you beat the Jets, you beat the Giants, you beat the Commanders, then you go to Buffalo and you play really well, but you lose. Okay, you can almost take solace in a moral victory. But the Packers have now put themselves in a spot where a moral victory is not acceptable because they're going to be 3-5 and then going to Detroit, which is a perky team, even though they only have 1 win. So if they get blown out, obviously, I mean, the wheels might come off and the locker room might start to splinter, and then we're really talking about a doomsday scenario. But the Packers really, any way this game goes other than a win is going to be a catastrophe. And if they would have taken care of business the last 3 weeks, that wouldn't be the case. They'd have a lot more options. and the season would be a lot more flexible to a win or a loss in Buffalo. But they've really backed themselves into a corner, losing the last 3.
If the Packers are going to make a deal, I think it has to be in the next 24, 48 hours. They could wait and say, hey, if we get a win on Sunday, then we have to go all in because we're back in this thing. And maybe on Sunday night, you're finalizing a deal after a wait and see moment. But I think in the next 24, 48 hours, if they're going to make a deal, that's when this thing's going to fall. Do you think there's a deal to be made, or do you think that Brian Gutekunst just kind of looks at things and says, nah, we're not one player away, and I don't want to give up these draft choices. And, we're not that good of a football team, and there's other things that are going on that are wrong here. We're going to sit on our hands.
Well, I think there are players out there that he could get, but I agree with what you just said. I think Goody's going to sit around and do nothing because this team has so many areas they need to improve before a wide receiver is going to make that big of a difference, right? They got to get the offensive line settled. They got to figure out run-pass combinations and how much they should run, how much they should pass, the whole balance of the offense. These wide receivers, the rookies and guys like Sammy Watkins, they got to play better. Rodgers got to play better. Joe Barry's got to get more in tune with his defense. So there's a million different routes to improvement with this current team without making an addition. The thing that I think is weird about the trade deadline, Bill, and I think it was Jordan Schultz who reported earlier today that the Packers are looking aggressively for a wide receiver and they want to find one on a rookie contract. I find that funny, Bill, because if the Packers wanted a wide receiver on a rookie contract so badly, they should have just drafted one in any of the last 4 drafts.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they had options in 2020 and in 2019 and 18. And again, the 2020 draft didn't go the way you want. Okay, you didn't take a wide receiver, but you also didn't take one in 2021 or in 2019 or in 2018. They've neglected this position for so long where they're almost forced to make a move. And even if they do make a move, Bill, I don't know that it's going to make a difference. So I don't have my hopes up. If they want to trade some late, third-day pick for A.J. Green, okay. But I don't think it's going to make a difference unless all these other areas of the team improve, which need to happen anyways. That improvement needs to happen regardless of a trade.
Well,
so I don't have my high hopes for a trade.
Well, that's a good point. But here's my question then. Okay, do you believe this team has talent? Because at the beginning of the season, if you would have told me it's Josh Nijman at right tackle, David Bakhtiari at left, you got Elton Jenkins going back to his natural left guard position, John Runyon at right guard, Josh Myers in the middle, your 2 running backs, Tanya's back at tight end, and your defense is 95% healthy, I just said you got a hell of a team.
Mm-hmm.
So either something behind the walls of 1265 are innately wrong, and we've completely overestimated the talent on this team, or there's something else going on that is causing all the problems. And can it be cured by simply getting a wide receiver?
They're better than this. I mean, Vegas predictions and all of the analysts thought the team would be better than this because they are better than this. Joe Barry's not a good defensive coordinator and hasn't maximized his talent. The offensive line has dealt with injuries and bad luck. The wide receivers have been coming along slowly, and Rodgers hasn't played well. I think if Rodgers just plays like 80% of last year, this team has a couple more wins. Or if the offensive line stays healthy, they have more wins. And Bill, sometimes even when everything goes well for this team and the wide receiver runs the correct route and Aaron Rodgers sees him and hits him in stride, well, then Allen Lazard drops it on 3rd and 6. It just seems like a season where even in the rare instances where everything does go right, then you get unlucky with a dropped pass or with a wide receiver that trips or something like that. So I think they've had a lot of bad luck. I think Joe Barry's a poor defensive coordinator. And Aaron Rodgers isn't playing well. And I weirdly think a lot of this stuff is correctable. I don't know if they have the ceiling of the Chiefs or the Bills if they correct all these things, but they certainly have a higher ceiling than that. They're a better team than this, Bill.
Yeah, see, I agree with that. That's why if I'm sitting here as the general manager, I'm saying, you know what? What's going on is more coaching scheme than it is the guys that I put together. This was a pretty good defense last year. This was a pretty good offensive line last year. One of the best pass blocking lines in football. This is a really good quarterback. These are 2 good, really good running backs. And we upgraded our special teams and our coach. This isn't that bad. I'm going to get myself a wide receiver or whatever else I can get. And I'm going to tell these guys, you got to fix it. At this point in time, I'd almost have to say if this is going to spiral out of control and we're going to see the same body language, the same milquetoast conversations with the head coach, something's got to change. And that's when you got to say, okay, do we give Matt LaFleur time to fix it, which you would assume they would, or do you say, you know what, we can't let the next year and a half just go away. So we're going to have to make a move now. I think they're at the kind of the crux of of what it is they're going to do. And that's why I think in the next 24, 48 hours, this team's going to make a move.
I don't think it'll hurt to make a move, Bill. Absolutely. Get a new face in there, shoot some life into the team. I think sometimes just making a move to make a move can be a good thing. Now, I more so believe that in baseball, but there are just more trades in baseball. I just think that Brian Gutekunst feels that this team should be better. I'm sure he's sitting back and thinking, look, guys, I know we've had some bad luck and some injuries, but geez, by God, you can't even beat the Giants. I don't know the Giants are 6-1, but the Giants stink. They don't have any talent. So I get you, Bill, but Brian Gutekunst has to think that this team should be better than it is. Doesn't mean he won't make a move, but they got to be better than this. I think the team's biggest problem, Bill, is they don't have an edge. Watch them, just the body language, the attitude. Like, I watch the Niners or the Chiefs. They're going out every Sunday to make a point. They're looking to hit someone. They're looking to play hard and make a statement. The Packers never look like that. I think that's their biggest issue.
Yeah, I would agree with. And I can't tell you the last time I saw this team, maybe Matt LaFleur's first year, where it was exciting. They were fired up, maybe the second year against Tampa Bay. But since then, it's been a very been there, done that, roll your helmets out, think you're going to win type of atmosphere almost, I guess. I mean, the only guy I could think of that you could get to bring in like right now would be a Sean Payton who's sitting on the sideline, so to speak, and if you want to go in that direction. But I don't know if the Packers would do something that bold right now. But you got to do something. If you are all in for the next 2 years with Aaron Rodgers, you got to do something. You can't just let this thing fester because it's not going to go anywhere but down.
Yeah, but I think Aaron Rodgers wants to be in charge. I don't know that it was totally McCarthy's fault, and I don't know that this is totally LaFleur's fault. I think Rodgers wants to play that the way that he wants to play. These old quarterbacks, Bill, they're stubborn. You know how it works, right? Mm-hmm. And they could bring in a brilliant offensive mind, and he's going to come to Green Bay and say, hey, here's the offense. It's going to work. And Rodgers might, he might play nice for a while, but then we've seen towards the end with McCarthy and now with LaFleur, like Rodgers regresses into the quarterback that he wants to be. And the quarterback that he wants to be is not who he is anymore. He's almost 39, and they don't have the wide receivers to play the offense that he wants to play. So I don't know that bringing in a new coach makes a difference in the long term, because I think it's Rodgers. You know what I mean? Rodgers wants to do things the way he wants to do, and I don't know if it really matters who's the coach.
Great stuff, Grant. We appreciate it. They can check you out at Wisco Grant over on Twitter and listen to the program over there as well. Always a pleasure, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. One of these weeks, I'm sure we'll have a win to talk about. I look forward to that. Thanks for the time.
It would be huge if they did. Appreciate it, Grant. Grant Bills of the Wisco Sports Show at Wisco Grant. You can find him at Wisco Grant. Good stuff there. And when we come back, Kevin Holden, CBS 58, is going to join us. We'll get his perspective on all of this. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to start to take a look around the rest of the National Football League and make some picks, including the big one coming up on Sunday night. The Packers are 3-4. The Bills are 5-1. And can the Packers recover if they go to 3-5? How desperately do they need this one? Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle, broadcasting live out here at Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend, right off of 43 and 164, brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. We've got more right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
If you want to stop in and say hi, we are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Got some stuff to give away here this evening as well. And joining us now on the hotline, our buddy Kevin Holden from CBS 58 is here tonight as well to talk a little bit more about what's going on in Green Bay. Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Man, Bill, it's all good. I finally got dried off from that crazy post rain shower in DC. I don't know if you saw it, but when we were on the air at 5:30 right after the game, 6:30 over there, we had a rain shower that just went right over the stadium, right as we were live on television. I was soaked, and then the rainstorm went away. So if you want the 2022 Packers in a nutshell, there's your story, rain shower.
At least you're dry, which that'll teach you. Bring a poncho next time, I guess. That's the easy way to put it. Kevin, obviously Aaron Rodgers, the lightning rod for anything, positive, negative, controversy, comments, whatever it happens to be. Give me your assessment. Might as well get your opinion on all of this as well.
I think, Bill, the thing about it is Aaron Rodgers has always been in all the different iterations of his career. There's always been the way I describe it is there's a message in his songs, right? Like he's putting something out there all the time, whether it was RELAX, whether it was Run the Table, different messages, different things that he's tried to get out there when he's been speaking with media. And he's been much more candid, obviously, this year and in the last couple of years since he had his, troubles with the organization that were made public on draft night. Those are significant issues. And I think what you're seeing from him now is an honesty, but also I think a little bit of desire to get this team whipped into shape a little bit. It's only 7 games in the season. It's not run the table time. So when he's talking about guys making mental mistakes, when he's talking about changes in reps, changes maybe on the offensive line, that sort of thing, I think it's designed to maybe start to get things right this week with Buffalo, even if Buffalo's not a win. I think Rodgers sees wins coming, which is why the message is, a little more harsh than it normally would be, because if they survive Buffalo, even if they lose that game, they can go to Detroit and win. They can beat Mike McCarthy's Cowboys. They can beat the Titans in a weird Thursday night game, and they can climb back into this weird NFC race. So it's weird to hear it from QB1, but I do think there's a purpose.
So let's get with the team because, and I asked this question to Grant Bills, I'll ask you. At the beginning of the season, we looked at this group and we said defensively, they're really good. They've added 2 guys from the Georgia defense. Nobody's hurt, banged up. Rashawn Gary is, but beyond that, everybody else looks to be pretty good. The offensive line, for the most part, is back together. The running backs are healthy. The tight end is healthy. Is it just as simple as saying they don't have any receivers? Is that it, or are we missing something here?
Yeah, I don't know, because on the defensive side, it is interesting to me because I thought that first half in D.C. was a pretty good half of football. There was a pick 6 by Devondre Campbell. There was Jair Alexander running all over the place, being physical. They I thought, were getting healthy against Taylor Heineke. And then Taylor Heineke basically played, enough snaps on the field that he wore the defense down. And by the time that game was over, Taylor Heineke had zero problem throwing the ball right at Jair Alexander, right at your number one corner, your all-pro corner. That's there's some concern to me about not just fatigue, but perhaps other teams in the second half of these games maybe gaining confidence, maybe feeling better about their own schemes, and by the end of the game, the defeat that may be taking place is something that's gradual. It's not talent versus talent. Maybe there's a little bit of other stuff involved, adjustments and coaching and that kind of thing, because the Packers have lost 3 straight games. They were not losing at halftime in any of those 3 games. So it's been 3 straight bad second halves for this team. So I don't think it's as simple as no wide receivers. It certainly helped when Rodgers could air it out, but I think there are other problems.
Yeah, if you're going to look and say there's other problems, and I agree with you, where would you start?
The first thing that comes to my mind is this team has said for a couple of years that they wanted to become sort of a new version of the 2020 San Francisco 49ers. They were going to commit to the run. They were going to commit to multiple running backs. They were going to commit to something within a system. And week after week after week, we keep talking about only X carries for Aaron Jones, only X carries for A.J. Dillon, or in the case of the Washington game, 12 running plays for the entire game. Game flow did dictate a little of it. They were trailing for a portion of that game. But that is crazy, because if you are wanting to do that, if you are wanting to use your run game to establish and do this over the course of the year, it has to start by establishing momentum. They can't show up to a big game with big confidence. They got to get to that point, which means, for example, if they want to go to Buffalo and they want to control the ball and keep the ball out of the hands of Josh Allen and the Bills offense, then they've got to depend on the run game. And there's no momentum in the run game. They had 12 carries this past week. So if I'm starting somewhere, I think it has to do with philosophy, and I think it has to do with usage. I know Aaron Jones had the 2 TD catches, but I think usage, the ground game, is the starting point for me.
Okay, so I start with the ground game. Rodgers is right. LaFleur is right. They have to get out of bad down and distance. They have to eliminate the mistakes. They have to eliminate the penalties that have put them so far behind and kind of takes them out of the run game. So I'm with you there. I really believe that the offense, this is all, as much as we want to talk about Joe Barry and playing soft in the second half of games and this and that, this team plays well when they're up by a score or 2. I agree with you. They haven't put a full game together. Even the special teams has let them down. I think not to say that I want to see coaches out of character, but there has to be, there is something intangible about energy and feel and vibe and getting guys up. There has to be something here that we're missing than just the milquetoast sidelines that seem to separate, split, go about their business, sit on the bench, and only walk on the field with any kind of energy when it's their time to put a helmet on. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, you hit that on the head, because when else and where else over the last how many ever years of Packers football? For me, it's 13. For you, it's been longer. How many times have you ever heard a player, especially a significant player, use the words, "I'm confused"? And Sammy Watkins said those words. He said, "I'm confused," and there are other guys in here that are confused. That's not something you want to hear in terms of, the vibe coming out of your locker room. I get, the idea of being happy with wins, being upset with losses, taking those personally, getting back in, and, there's that whole thing. And I understand when a week goes to another week, there's a point where the stinging has to stop and you flip the switch and you start the preps for the next week and that sort of thing. But I'm confused is a message of like, I don't know if they know where to go. I don't know if I want to read too much into Aaron Rodgers saying that he was disappointed to find out about the offensive line changes around the same time we did, you and I, the media folks, meaning that he didn't know about that was going to be the game plan ahead of time. He found out shortly before the game. I don't want to read too much into it, but again, if we're talking confusion, maybe if the message is unclear, that's the sort of thing that could be clear. I hate it for David Bakhtiari, but perhaps in the idea of getting some clarity and less confusion, maybe those guys just need to be together for 4 or 5 days, and you should sit Bakhtiari or someone who you don't know can go until he's ready to go. Perhaps that's a thing that can happen.
When you take me inside the locker room after the game on Sunday when they lost to Washington, give me your thoughts as you're walking around that locker room listening to guys talk.
Oh, you can always tell when it's one of those losses, and this is not just the case for the Packers. This is the case for any team that expects success. There are going to be one or two guys who are going to have to say the right words to the people walking into the room, because it was extremely somber walking in, obviously. I mean, very, very quiet. And what immediately happened was we all gravitated to Mercedes Lewis, to Big Dog. And Mercedes Lewis, gave you the sound that you wanted to hear. He said the words you wanted to hear, but they were very much in the sense of, this is soul searching time. This is that time when you've got to dig down. You've got to see what's there, what you're made of. And sometimes that type of player, that type of team leader in that situation will be fired up. And I didn't get fired up from Mercedes Lewis. I mean, I got a serious message, and I know he's committed to the team and to turning it around. But even that message, when he's in front of media and trying to put something out there, manifest this, if you will, it was still kind of somber, and that was the case. Sammy was the same way. That interview with Sammy Watkins was telling to me, talking about being confused. Just, this is a guy who wants to help. He's frustrated, but the frustration wasn't what was in the interview. That what was there was the word confusion. The fact that there's so much talent and so little result coming from that talent, that I think guys are at the point where, like, man, I don't understand how we really got from A to B. But it's a long road between being one of the favorites and being under 500 through 7 games.
Real quick, I've said all along your thoughts. If they win the game, the train's back on the tracks. If they lose the game, but it's close, it's hard fought, you walk away feeling good with a legitimate shot for the end of the season. If you walk away and get blown out of this game, 35-10, 35-17, 42-10, something like that, then the season's over. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, because so here's the thing: if they lose bad and they go to 3-5, then let's just call Philadelphia a loss, and that's 3-6, which means to be 10-7, they have to lose one game the rest of the way out of all of those remaining games. So you're talking 3-5, 3-6. That's 9 games. You have to lose one of the other 8. And you have to find confidence, and you have to find a run game and a pass game. And, you're trying not to tire the defense out. At some point, it just becomes too much. And it would take a blowout loss for me to start feeling really bad about the Packers season. But if it does happen and they go to 3-5, then yeah, they're close to being who their record says they are. I don't remember the coach that said that, but your team is what your record says it is. And they could be 3-5 and very much that type of team.
Yeah, no doubt. Kevin, good stuff as always, bud. We'll talk again real soon, okay?
Sounds good, Bill. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon. There you go. Kevin Holden from CBS 58 joining us for a couple of minutes. It's a consensus. They lose this game, there's almost no hope unless 9 wins will get you in as a wild card this season. You win this game, legitimate hope. You lose this game and get blown out, I think Packers fans are going to start to find something else to do on Sundays. Just my thought. We're going to start making picks. We're going to start making picks when we come back. Stay tuned. We are broadcasting live out here, Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend, and it's good to have you out here tonight. They got a pool league going on right now. They got people around the bar watching the Bucks game, giving away stuff from our friends at Bud Light as well. Koozies, hats, shirts, Bucks shirts, you name it, all right here. Stay tuned. We got more coming up after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, no.
Welcome back to the program. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. We are broadcasting live. We're at Kelly's Bleachers. We're in Big Bend, which is where you can find us. Brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. And now we begin to take a look around the NFL and the rest of the games that are upcoming. As this weekend so incredibly important for the Green Bay Packers, we start now to look at some of these other games that are on the docket. And Ben Kenny joining from the studio. So, Ben, we go with the first one, the Ravens, and a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson to get the job done, specifically late in ball games where his defense has kind of let him down. And then there's Tom Brady. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 3-4. They're not playing good football. Their offensive line is absolutely terrible. I get the sense that if there's going to be a breakout week for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is it. I don't necessarily know what the spread is, but I'm going to take the Buccaneers at home to get a win in this one because it's a must-win game for them.
They are 1-point favorites on Thursday night. It's the old movable object meets the stoppable force proposition with the Ravens secondary and what the Bucs have done offensively recently. I think the Ravens win. You got to wonder what Antonio Brown's photoshops of Brady on his body running off the field in New York are doing to Brady's mindset.
Oh, he's been
throwing that out there.
photoshopping his head on Brady's body with Giselle too.
Yeah, he's doing a lot. So you got to wonder what those distractions do to the Bucs team. I'll take the Ravens.
You got Dallas, and the Dallas Cowboys are taking on the Bears. The Bears just trade away their big defensive end, Roquan Smith, upset about it, emotional today at the press conference. Cowboys making deals. The Eagles are making deals. I mean, the East is up for grabs right now. Cowboys flat out have to have this one. The point spread regardless, I think the Cowboys get the win. They got a boost. You saw what Dak Prescott can do. He looks to be energized and healthy again. I'm going with the Cowboys to get the win at home and go to, 6-2, I think, on the season, right?
So, yes. So the Bears finally did that thing where they started calling plays that help the quarterback.
Right.
That actually, they ask him to do things he's good at now, which suddenly resulted in a win. Funny how all that works. Ryan Poles talking about taking the North back or taking the North and never giving it back to the Packers. Tough start for that. He got a 4th-round pick for Robert Quinn. He's paying him his whole salary the rest of the year. Roquan Smith, I feel like he's tearing up because he's mad he's still in Chicago. He's been trying to get out of there all season. Kind of a disaster. They are still crazily same record as the Packers, though. I'm taking the Cowboys. I'm taking the Cowboys. I don't think it's close.
Dolphins on the road at 4-3 and Lions at home 1-5. Lions, I'm disappointed. I really thought they'd be better. Boy, I bought in hook, line, and sinker, and I the last couple of weeks have been atrocious. I think their last 2 games, they've scored 6 points, if I'm not mistaken. They got blanked by the New England Patriots, put up 6 last week against the Cowboys. The Lions suck. I'm taking the Dolphins.
I think the weather looks good, so all the fans will likely be at the beach. And the Live Match Play, actually, it's in Detroit. Never mind. I thought it was in Miami. The Live Match Play finals, though, are in Miami this weekend. Got to wonder how much of a distraction that is for the Dolphins. I'm taking the Lions.
Okay. Cardinals on the road, taking on the Vikings. Cardinals in a must-win situation. Vikings got a comfortable lead, and Vikings coming back off of the bye and such. I'm not quite sure how good they are. I don't know if they're a paper champion at this point or not, but I hate to do it, but I got to pick the Vikings at home to go 6-1. The Cardinals, though, backs are against the wall. They pretty much got to win this one, too. Even though their division's still up for grabs, it's looking more and more like if you don't win the division in the NFC and you keep falling behind, it's going to be about 10 wins that's going to get you there, and they can't go much further back. So I'm going to take the Vikings at home, though.
Bill, the Gophers have gotten walloped recently. They're on a backup quarterback. The Timberwolves suck, as Grant Bills has noted. I don't know what's happened to them. You have Karl Anthony Towns telling Anthony Edwards to stop eating Popeyes. Who knows if Correa returns to the Twins as well. I'm taking the Cardinals. The city of Minneapolis is in a tough spot right now.
The worst scoring team in football is in London to take on the Jaguars. The Jaguars will go victorious, and the Jaguars will get their 3rd win of the season against the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson. And Nathaniel Hackett continues to remain firmly on the hot seat as he's probably longing to come back and be the offensive coordinator for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I'm taking the Jaguars.
Oh man, did you see the Wilson thing today? Apparently, their big flight to London, he was stretching and doing high knees down the aisle the entire time.
Right.
Wonder how much sleep his team was able to get. I figured the high knees are a pretty loud exercise to do in the middle of a quiet plane. Not to mention the fact he should be reprimanded by exercising on a plane. Got to think that throws off the flight pattern. I'm taking the Jaguars.
You got the Panthers 2-5, the Falcons 3-4. Falcons at home in Atlanta. Panthers coming off that big win last weekend over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to take the Falcons at home just because the Falcons are at home and they've been somewhat of a pesky team that I haven't been able to figure out yet. It's two bad teams facing off against one another, so I'm going with the home team.
Yeah, this game stinks. If I had to make a pick, gun to head, probably pick the Falcons. The animal would probably kill a Panther in a fight, but I don't know. This game sucks.
You've got by the way, I'm listening to Smoky Mountain Rain right now. I kid you not. And before I was listening to Debbie Boone when I got here. I don't know what kind of music they're playing out here, but it's crazy. I feel like I'm in some kind of an old 70s time warp, and I belong back in the back seat looking out of the back of the window of my dad's old station wagon with my mom singing Starlight Tonight. So the Starland Country Band or whatever the hell it was called. Raiders at 2-4 on the road in New Orleans, taking on the Saints at 2-5. Starland Vocal Band, that was it. The Saints, neither one of these teams are very good, but I guess I'm kind of hoping the Saints get the win just because I'm pretty happy watching the Raiders completely go out in flames after thinking they had just made all the improvements this offseason. I'm going with the Saints to go to 3-5.
Do you know what state that band is from, Bill, by any chance?
Starland Vocal Band? Don't know.
Trying to fit it into my picks. Okay. I'll do some research. Okay. Devontae Adams is being careful entering tunnels recently, especially after last game. He made sure it was clear before he proceeded. I'll take the Raiders.
Okay. Patriots 3-4. Bailey Zappi gets put in for the pulled Mac Jones. They got a quarterback controversy brewing in New England. The Jets, in the meantime, they got a stout defensive front. I'm taking the Jets to whoop up on the Patriots. Jets go to 6-2. Patriots go to 3-5 on the season.
Oh, what's the old saying, Bill? If you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any.
There you go.
So, therefore, I don't see how the Patriots win this game without a quarterback. I'll take the Jets. Also had a great flying experience on my way to Philly. So, Jet Airlines, stock up.
So there you go. We're going to break. We're going to come back. We got more to get to. No, I'm not in a basement for those that are watching. It's just a weird camera angle because I am strictly on the other side of where the other camera is for those watching on the Bud Light live stream. So when you see the other camera, I mean, that pool table's right in front of me. I'm just at a weird angle where the camera that's on me is not really picking up much light. And I do look like I'm a creeper in a basement. I really do. That's a pretty good commentary right there for those of you on the Bud Light live stream watching the program tonight. When we come back, we got many other games to pick. Hang in there. There's more of the Bill Michaels Huddle brought to you by our friends at Bud Light coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Huddle, final segment of the program coming up. We're broadcasting live Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend. Always great to come out here. I love riding the motorcycle out here. They have softball fields out here in the summertime, and obviously I am on the stage, but a lot of bands, usually the stage is all lit up, but a lot of bands that play here, big place, can hold, 250 people, something like that. They get good crowds in this place, and the food is really good, so if you get a chance, check it out and come out to Kelly's Bleachers out here in Big Bend. We get back to it. Some of the other games on the docket. The Steelers on the road at 2-5, taking on the Eagles, who continually get better. The Eagles are going for it, Ben. You got to be smiling with your Philadelphia Phillies going to the World Series, and the Eagles, the only undefeated team in the National Football League. I'm taking the Eagles at home in this one.
Oh, man. I don't know what to feel, Bill, and I know it's not going to last long. My pick from the game, I guess I'll play a clip from our show earlier today. Has that stopped people in the past? No. That's the thing. You could lube a pole as much as you want. Birds by 1,000.
Oh, my God. The Tennessee Titans at 4-2, taking on the Texans at 1-4-1. Hopefully Brandon Cooks doesn't get hurt in case he becomes the product of the Green Bay Packers via trade. I'm taking the Tennessee Titans on the road to get the win.
So I had a big day today, Bill. The Big Ten schedule release for next year came out.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin has a really favorable schedule. We can get into it on the show tomorrow.
Wisconsin at Ohio State at Camp Randall next year.
They do. A lot of the crossovers are easy. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm starting to talk myself into next year, maybe being the year. The college football playoff happens to be in Houston next year, so I'm picking the Texans.
Oh, well, okay, there you go. You've got a reason for everything. The Washington Commanders just beating up the Green Bay Packers. They are 3-4. 3-1 are the Indianapolis Colts, who are now making a quarterback change. Maybe that means that they'll run the ball a little bit more. Who knows? Or maybe not throw it away as much. But the Colts getting a little bit of new life, we'll say. I'll take the Colts at home to go to 3-4-1.
So teams that beat the Packers don't stop winning, apparently. You look at the Giants, you look at the Jets, really, and the Vikings even, aside from that Eagles game. So you have that on one side. You have the other side, Sam Ehlinger starting at quarterback for the Colts. Matt Ryan benched. Texas is back. They're also quite good this year in college. I didn't know how to go with this game, but I'm picking the Colts.
There you have it. Then you got a tail out west. San Francisco at 3-4. The Rams at 3-3. The Rams seem to be somewhat foundering at this point. The 49ers, just when you start to think that, Jimmy Garoppolo's the answer, and they're so glad to have him back after the Trey Lance disaster, then they begin to lose games. I don't know who to pick, so I'm going with a home team in this one. The Rams to get the win, albeit I will hedge my bet in this one saying that if the defense brings the pressure, Matthew Stafford, it ain't the same team as last year. He could succumb rather quickly, but I'm going to take the Rams at home in a close one.
Oh, man. Shanny has always just destroyed Sean McVay when they've played head-to-head, no matter how good either team is. So I'm picking the Niners. Also, some buzz out in the Bay Area with one Aaron Judge. Looks like the Giants are going to be big suitors for him. So they're kind of buzzing out there. I'm going to pick the Niners.
Then you got the Giants at 6-1, also a presumed paper champion, taking on the Seahawks. The Seahawks, a surprising 4-3. I don't even know what to make of them. But going East Coast to West Coast to the top of the country like that out in Seattle, I'm taking the Seahawks at home to hand the Giants their second loss of the season.
I'm with you. It's a big game, which is weird when you look at those teams. The Yankees are a complete embarrassment also, so I don't see how the Seahawks don't roll.
Monday Night Football. You've got Cincinnati, who's now feeling it. Joe Burrow could have thrown for 800 yards by half last week had he wanted to. Jamar Chase, even though he did pull up, they thought that maybe he injured something. No, he says he's good to go, feels really good, came back in the ballgame. That duo is not only deadly, but it's also racking me up a bunch of points on my fantasy. They're playing the hapless Cleveland Browns at the Mistake on the Lake. Monday Night Football will be Brown, flush it down. I'm picking the Bengals to go to 5-3 versus the Browns to go to 2-6.
It's all from Ohio, Bill. What's the difference?
It's the battle for the Buckeye State.
It's the battle for the legislature of the fish criminals.
Yes.
If we're being honest here,
That's
the
it.
winning team somehow reigns supreme in the state. I'm picking the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bengals in that one. That's going to be maybe a Skyline Chili Monday night type of thing if I'm going to watch that game. Then you got the 3-4 Packers who are reeling at this point and desperately in search of a win. Backs against the wall, fighter in the corner, all the cliches you want to throw out. The Bills coming off of a bye. They're rested. They're refreshed. They've got Von Miller, who I can only imagine is breathing, salivating, snotting, snorting, all kinds of flames and anger right now at the thought of eating up Aaron Rodgers. I cannot pick the Packers. They just look too lethargic. They mimic their milquetoast head coach who doesn't have any fire, any emotion, any enthusiasm. It is a very stoic, monotone, Bueller kind of team. And it just wasn't that way for years, and suddenly it is. I don't know why, but I'm going to take the Bills at home to beat the Packers. And I'm going to say they're going to get them 27-14, 27-17, something like that.
My thumb is hurt.
So Bill, around here, Randy, our great program director here he is all to the wall with Bills golf balls. There are Bills logos everywhere in the studio. I think they're mainly meant for Ebo and Nelson, who will be here in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I already saw him place them, kind of like an Easter egg hunt. So he is buzzing, obviously. The Bills are very good. The Packers are coming to town. This kind of feels like a game to me where the Packers start out strong, like they have for some times this year. Maybe get up 10-0. You go on Twitter and everyone's all happy. Packers are back. Rodgers is back. And then a couple things happen, whether it's special teams, whether it's defense, whether it's the offense just starts to stall a bit. And then I think the Bills start to run away once they get confidence. Same second half struggles we've seen. Taking the Bills 28-13, just enough of a difference to make us really worried. Not necessarily moral victory territory. I'm worried about this team, Bill. I have no confidence in them.
Also, on a note of wins and losses, the Philadelphia Phillies left for Houston, which Houston has still not decided who's going to be the opener in Game 1 of the World Series, at least officially. Did you see Gene Segura?
Yeah, he's locked in, Bill.
He got on the plane in his uniform, dressed head to toe in his uniform, saying it's a business trip. Everybody else is in suits and styling and profiling the way players like to do. He jumped in fully dressed, cleats, spikes, I should say. I mean, everything. Stirrups, pants, jersey, hat, pullover, hoodie. He's not even changing his clothes. He's going right to the stadium, to the dugout. So that's going to be nice coming up on Friday night for the Phillies and the Astros. Game 1 of the World Series will get underway. And reportedly the Dodgers and the Giants both have serious money they want to spend on Aaron Judge. So we'll see if he goes East Coast to West Coast. That's going to do it. Time for us to get out of here. Thanks to the staff and management. Always great to come out here to Kelly's Bleachers in Big Bend. I don't live too far away from here. We get over here quite often if we can. And love riding out here in the motorcycle, heading up and down 164, going down the back roads down here off of LS and all the way down into Guanago and such. So great fun, great time, great place. Thanks everybody for paying attention to us on the Bud Light live stream as well. We are brought to you by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk